8th century BC Judah looks like a superpower on paper. You see massive stone palaces going up, a booming economy, and rapidly expanding cities. But that prosperity was an illusion for the majority of the population. The wealthy urban elite were running a real estate monopoly. They targeted vulnerable peasant farmers, seizing land and homes that had been in those families for generations. And the establishment offered total complicity. Corrupt judges legalized the theft in exchange for bribes, while professional, mercenary prophets sold divine endorsements to the highest bidder. This society operated on a rigged system designed to extract wealth from the working class to fuel urban elites. To see the true cost of that system, you had to look outside the fortified capital and head south, down into the rural, hilly, agricultural borderlands known as the Shephelah. This is where we meet Micah of Moresheth Gath. He was a working-class farmer who lived on the fault line of this exploitation, watching his neighbors lose their livelihoods to wealthy landowners. He saw a glaring hypocrisy. The elites back in Jerusalem felt untouchable because they were funding massive, expensive religious rituals at the central temple. They believed their wealth bought God's favor and protection. Looking at this academic analysis of the biblical record, you can see Micah is identified only by his hometown, with no mention of royal or priestly lineage. To the city dwellers, he was a rustic outsider, but that distance gave him moral clarity. Because he lived on the outside and never joined the payroll, he had the freedom and the courage to blow the whistle on an entire empire. Micah marches into the halls of power and serves the leadership with a reeb, an ancient Hebrew term for a formal covenant lawsuit. He acts as God's prosecuting attorney, indicting the nation's leaders for breach of contract. The elites panic, and their immediate defense is transactional. They try to settle the lawsuit out of court by offering to bribe God with thousands of rams or 10,000 rivers of oil. But Micah delivers a truly staggering verdict. Because Jerusalem's wealth is built on the blood and greed of the poor, the holy capital is going to be leveled to the ground. This is the physical reality of that divine judgment. The arrogant power centers reduced to shattered foundations and heaps of rubble on a barren hillside. Micah makes it clear, religious privilege and elite status offer zero protection when a society's foundation is rotting with social injustice. So what does God want instead of extravagant rituals? Looking at the text of Micah 6:8, we get the answer. The demands are non-negotiable. First, execute fair systems, do justice. Second, show radical compassion, love mercy. And third, abandon arrogance, walk humbly with your God. But Micah does not stop at individual ethics. He takes that demand for justice and projects it forward, revealing a vision of how these principles transform the global landscape. In Micah's era, the world was dominated by the fear of foreign invasion and reliance on brutal weapons of war, like this broad-bladed iron sword. Yet he prophesies a day when the military-industrial complex will be dismantled. Those weapons of death will be beaten and melted down into tools of agricultural creation, like the heavy blades of a plowshare. Spears will be forged into pruning hooks, returning the power and the security back to the hands of the working-class farmer tending his vines. Lasting security is never achieved by building deadlier weapons. It is achieved by ensuring every vulnerable family has the resources to thrive in peace. To lead this transformed world, Micah prophesies the arrival of a future rescuer and king. But he explicitly warns that this leader will not emerge from the wealthy palaces or the political elite of Jerusalem. Instead, the ruler will come from here, Bethlehem. It was a rural farming clan so tiny and insignificant, it didn't even make the list of major cities in the territory of Judah. By choosing a rural backwater, God intentionally subverts the human obsession with status, choosing instead to elevate the humble and the working class. God's ultimate solution to systemic corruption bypasses the establishment entirely, proving that true divine power is rooted in humility, not status. Micah's courage worked. More than a century after he delivered his warnings, national leaders in Jerusalem quoted his exact words to save the prophet Jeremiah from a death sentence. And centuries later, Micah's vision finds its fulfillment in the New Testament, when Jesus is born in that exact village of Bethlehem to champion the poor and the marginalized. The warning for us today is sharp. Performative religion, accumulated wealth, and cultural status mean nothing without the ethical, fair treatment of the vulnerable. The only true measure of a person's faith, then and now, is their commitment to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly.